And we're back with the Matt Alcinas, the team named after my partner here. And the teammates of that are Ben and Vishy. Go ahead and say hello, guys.
Hi, I'm Vishy.
And I'm Ben.
So, we'll go ahead and go through you guys' draft. We have, in the first round, we have Urshifu G-Max Single Strike. Second, you guys pick Gengar, followed by Inteleon. Then Incineroar, Politoed, Fungus, Vespiquen, Magnezone, the Score Bunny, and Pupitar. Alright, so right now we gave your synergy grade a B minus. Main reason is we really did see a lot of super offensive things coming out from the fire water grass core that you guys have. You guys do have the G Max Inteleon and the Incineroar with the Fungus, but lack of a real grass type, in our opinion, really hurts you here. Obviously, you guys do have other things that can kind of compensate for that. Like you have Inteleon that has access to like Ice Beam and Air Slash to kind of deal with like other grass types that might be able to threaten you. But overall, we just thought that the draft was a little bit top heavy, and that while the top picks worked really really well together, it tended not to work so good further down you got down the roster. So we ended up giving you a B minus there, mainly because we saw the top six Mons are real strong, but it's very clear that you're probably gonna bring 7 of these Mons like 90% of the time. 3 of them are gonna sit on the bench most of the time. So that kind of makes it a little bit easier for you guys to prepare for. But you guys still have some pretty good threats here with the single max Urshifu, the single strike Urshifu. You guys have Gengar Inteleon, and then that little, kind of rain mode with the Politoed Inteleon. And Incineroar is it's a good value at A, in my opinion. I think we were able to put it, in the right spot. So being able to get a good fake out user with Intimidate and some decent Volt, I think it really helped you guys out there.
Your threat level, we graded you with an A minus. Your highest grade out of all of our metrics. The threats that you have are especially threatening. I mean, just starting off with your S tier pick, that Urshifu, especially since you got the G-Max form, being able to break through, protect, whether you are maxed or not. If that's not threatening, I don't know what is. Gengar, I think, can be especially threatening in its own right. It has some. Not only is it a very fast and offensive Pokemon, but it has some really nasty tools at its disposal. I think especially in Vishy's hands, that thing will be pretty nasty. You can probably get a Destiny Bond off here and there without your opponent realizing that it's coming. I think the rain mode, despite not having Swift Swim, the rain mode is going to be incredibly powerful, and especially since you have the G-Max form of Inteleon, it can't set its own rain, but it doesn't need to because you guys have Politoed, and it just has extra damage on that G-Max Hydro Snipe at 160 base power. That's pretty insane, especially with the rain setup. So that's going to be incredibly threatening, especially given how offensive Inteleon is already. The Magnezone, that's also a big threat. It can Steel Spike and then start body pressing once Dynamax is over. It's got a big special attack stat. The Fungus is very threatening as well. Any redirector that also threatens sleep is a big threat. It's a great answer to Trick Room because it's so incredibly slow. It's slower than almost everything in the format. So it's going to be threatening to a lot of teams that are that have a heavy Trick Room mode or want to rely on setting up Trick Room to blow past your fast Pokemon. So lots of really good threats there. Your draft order, we gave you a B minus. We thought it started out pretty strong, especially with your first 2 picks. We think that Single Strike Urshifu and Gengar are going to end up working pretty well together. But it was we thought since your draft was pretty top heavy, we found that to be a little bit questionable. You ended up drafting 4 A tiers after that S tier in Urshifu, which forced you into only having one B tier option, and then you had to draft that Vespa Queen and then 2 E tiers. So it ends up because you spent so many points on those A tiers, ends up I think making you guys a little bit more predictable, a little bit easier to prepare for, even if you do have some versatile tools. So overall, that was that came out to a B minus.
Your overall draft grade, though, we gave you a B. The main reason is that this is a very offensive team that is going to be able to pick up quick KOs on teams, be able to put them behind the 8 ball, and you guys will be able to clean up with some of the not as great stuff in the back. Put yourself in situations where, as weird as it sounds, Polito cleans up here because we went ahead and took care of everything with Gengar, Inteleon, and G-Max Urshifu. And we were able to put out so much offense with those that now, stuff like Magnezone can't be stopped. Because they're put in weird positions where it's like, oh yeah, I guess our checks are gone now. So even though it's a top-heavy draft, it's a well-made team where you're gonna have 6 Pokemon at a consistent basis be able to put out good damage across all sorts of the spectrums of typings, to where you're not gonna get walled by a lot of things, and several different modes, in my opinion. And those modes to start off with, like we said in the pros, you have those 3 powerful modes. You have the Inteleon Politoed mode, which we think is obviously really great. You have the Magnezone, which kind of can be combined with like the Fungus as well, where you can Dynamax it, and you can start launching off. The Max Steel Spikes come back and start launching body presses, and it's just a good typing in general. There's a lot of things you can do with that. But I think one of the really underrated modes you guys have is the Urshifu Single Strike and the Gengar. A lot of people don't really see that, just Urshifu has such a great speed tier, and having to being able to maybe even scarf Gengar and start launching Icy Winds to drop things to speed, so that way Urshifu can be faster than it and knock it out. It really does help a lot. You can support it so well, and then on top of that, with Gengar being able to cover its massive Fairy type weakness, it synergizes so well, and I think that a lot of teams aren't going to be prepared for it, because they look at the team preview and they go, what do they really do together? We're probably going to prepare more for the G-Max Inteleon and the Politoed a little bit more, because that kind of shows a little bit more of a threat, and then they're just caught completely off guard by it. So those 3 powerful modes, I really think are something that is gonna really help you guys just blow through teams a lot of times. And that being said, like we said, Urshifu being properly supported, it's gonna make it a big threat, because with 6v6 it's a little bit different, because Urshifu didn't see that much usage in VGC, because I feel like 4v4 and the ability to Dynamax, not a lot of things are carrying Protect, because the games are going so fast, whereas in multi-battle, it's not a good idea to not carry Protect on a majority of your Mons. It's not a good idea to think that your Dynamax Mon is just going to automatically win you the game, because it doesn't a lot of times. So having Urshifu being able to just go through Protects, it's such a great late game sweeper where people rely on positioning to maybe Protect, switch in something that's going to knock it out. And you go, you know what, you can't stall this out. You're going to have to make 2 switches, and if I call this, you're going to be coming into a huge neutral hit damage, or a huge dark type attack or fighting type attack that you're not going to be able to take, and all because you were trying to preserve this one Pokemon. It's very deadly in mid to late game, and we think that you guys also use your anti-trick room picks very effectively. This was one of the things that we noticed with the draft, was that it might be a little bit weak to Trick Room, but being able to round out with Fungus, Magnezone, and things of that nature, to where you can stall it out and maybe just put down pressure with the Fungus and Spore stuff, and Magnezone still has a slow-ish speed stat to where you're not completely just afraid. You just have Inteleon out there with 4 turns of Trick Room left. You can actually have some bulk out there that's gonna sit, take a couple hits, throw something back at it, and then when you come out of Trick Room, you've actually done some offense and you just haven't been taking KOs for the last 4 or 5 turns.
Yeah, what I'm seeing with your Trick Room matchup is I think one pick being Fungus. It's because it's so slow. It's going to be able to spore virtually everything. So in some situations, even if your opponents get Trick Room up, you might be able to stop their main Trick Room mode, even if especially if they're just relying on one particular Trick Room sweeper. You can just spore it and kind of ruin their plans, especially if that's the mon they Dynamax. So I think Fungus alone allows you to actually have allows you to function inside of Trick Room very well. And then in order to stop Trick Room, obviously you have a few Pokemon that can learn Taunt, like Gengar and Incineroar. But I'm also seeing Gengar as a hard stop to your opponent setting up Trick Room, because it is a Ghost type with Imprison and Trick Room available to it. So that's kind of why I think these picks were used. Your anti-Trick Room picks were used efficiently, because both Fungus and Gengar can do other stuff outside of Trick Room, and they're both effective in either stopping it from getting set up or helping you function if your opponents do set it up. So I like that a lot. As for your cons, your draft is pretty top heavy. We went over that already. The rain mode I noticed seemed like maybe a bit of an afterthought, or perhaps it was just kind of secondary, since you have Politoed with Inteleon, which is still very powerful. But usually you'd expect Politoed to get paired with a Swift Swimmer, right? So it seemed a little bit to us like you wanted Inteleon first, and then you thought Politoed would be a good partner for it, and maybe that's the best you could have gone for in that situation with what was left, if you wanted another A tier in that slot. But I might have wanted to see maybe even something like Barrascuda in that Inteleon slot. Obviously, Barrascuda doesn't have access to that massive G-Max Hydro Snipe, but it does kind of the same stuff. It has Swift Swim. It has the option to outspeed super fast stuff like Dragapult if you put Swift Swim on it. It still has Propeller Tail, so it avoids redirection just like Inteleon's Snipe Shot. So I think that can be that particular mode, your current rain mode, can be considered kind of a pro and kind of a con. And then there are a couple of crucial types that I think could have increased your synergy grade quite a bit. Anthony touched on you not having like a real grass type. Your grass type is Fungus, which functions more as just redirection and sleep, because it's not too bulky, even though you can Eviolite is a viable option on it, but it's not putting out any real offense. It's not gonna have the same type of potential to form a core with Incineroar and Inteleon as a lot of other grass types will. And I think I also would have liked to see maybe something like a Fairy type or a Psychic type paired up with that Incineroar, Gengar, Urshifu kind of mode.
Yeah. So that wraps up the report card. So we're just going to ask you guys a couple of questions on what you guys did for the draft and how you guys thought about it overall. The first thing that we were going to ask was, oh, I'm sorry, I lost my spot here. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. Yes. Very obvious. Vespiquen. So what was the deal with Vespiquen? What was the thought process behind it?
So for Vespiquen, we basically looked at our team, right, and we clearly have, we have a hard-hitting mon in Urshifu, we have Inteleon and Incineroar, we have Fungus at this point, so we have very good support mons, but one thing we were severely lacking was a mon with decent speed control. So at this point we were looking through all the mons available, and we didn't really like anything in the other tiers that got access to any form of speed control outside of Icy Wind. So instead we decided to to save our points and go for Vespiquen, and it's actually not horrible. It has primarily Tailwind, which is the major reason we picked it, but it also gets Unnerve, it gets access to all the orders. It also gets some pretty interesting moves. It gets Rain Dance, which could come up. Yeah, so overall, it was just a mon that we thought we could get some value out of, and it was by far one of the better mons in the tier.
Was there anything else in D tier that you were looking at?
As far as I can remember, not necessarily. We were joking around with maybe picking up Pichu, but like other than that, there was nothing specific.
So mainly a Tailwind user when you didn't necessarily have a lot of points left.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that leads into our next question. We noticed that I guess, well, you still did have quite a few points left when you picked Vespiquen. You snatched that up in D tier and then turned around and picked an A tier right after that in round 8. Definitely not a very typical way to spend your points. So what was the thought process behind the order of those picks? Why'd you pick Magnezone so late?
There were 2 reasons for that. So basically, we decided that okay, there's a steel type that we really want in A. So, and that was the Magnezone. And well, we decided that okay, but there's also a mon in D that we thought was like the best D tier pick for us. And we were scared that like another team would pick it up before, but we weren't scared of the Magnezone because we only had 4 picks between our 2 picks because we were 14th in the draft. So we decided that the other 2 teams were likely not going to draft Magnezone, so we decided to keep it until later. So our priority was Vespiquen.
Hey, works out.
That is pretty fair, and that's actually something we did as well when during the 3rd and 4th round, because we were right after you, and we were going to draft Volcarona Blastoise, and we picked Volcarona first because the team right after us already had G-Max Blastoise. So we pretty much had both of them by the time it got to us in our 3rd round. So I definitely understand that. So that's a good point. Seems less weird now that you explained it that way.
Yeah, especially when you're in the 8th round. That's when the D tiers are really going to start going. At that point, you're pretty safe to see that like an A tier isn't going to get taken, because I think around there is when we had like you start having teams go, oh, did we just draft 2 S tiers and 3 A tiers? Oh, okay, we have to clean this up a little bit. So you have those times all the time, or those teams all the time, where their last like 3 or 4 picks, they're just selecting D and E's. So I totally see the reasoning to just be like, all right, man, the Vespiquen, we don't want that thing to be taken because D's and E's are going to be starting to get taken soon. Nobody's going to be taking A's this late in the draft. We'll go for it later, especially if you guys kind of already knew what you guys wanted. So I think that's a good way to put it. So let's just go ahead and ask now too. You have the Politoed, you have the Inteleon, and Matt kind of touched on it. Why not go for a Swift Swim user in that Inteleon slot? Why go for Inteleon or not have a Swift Swim user at all?
Yeah, so we were looking at A tier in general. So at this point we had Urshifu and Gengar. Our initial plan was to kind of build around those 2. But there was also Inteleon just sitting there in A tier, and we felt that it was just too good of a pick not to take. It was just so high value for the points it was at. So we just decided to take it and also build around that at the same time. So we then picked Incineroar and Politoed. Politoed and Incineroar were really just there to support Inteleon. Obviously, Rain gives a significant boost to Inteleon, and Politoed is a helping hand, Icy Wind. It gets more support moves like Encore. It's really there just to support Inteleon in general.
I could even see you going for a Perish Thong too if you happen to knock out 2 Pokemon on the same side, you can go for Perish Song, and then that last one can't switch out to get rid of the Perish counter. So that's just something else I wanted to mention since we were talking about Politoed.
But that's a really good answer. You know, sometimes you go for the Inteleon and the Politoed's the backup or the afterthought, mind you, rather than thinking we're gonna build a rain mode. So it makes a lot of sense why you guys weren't so super hype on grabbing a Swift Swim user too, especially if you wanted to spend those points on like a Steel type like Magnezone, which I think is a very, very good Pokemon on your guys' team. I do really like that pick a lot. Even though you guys picked it in the 8th, which is a little bit weird. Now that you guys kind of explained your guys' strategy, it makes a lot of sense in that slot, and it's actually really good that you guys were able to get it that late in the draft. So with that being said, we finished with the questions. Did you guys have any questions for us or any critiques on our analysis on your guys' draft?
Yeah. Sir, Matt, Dad, you remember my my motto, no A, no Pokemon?
Well, you picked 4 A tiers, so
our explanation.
Got an A in threat level. That's like good enough, right?
A minus though.
you got 1 A. That's that's good enough. We'll still let you play.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't know. Should we let them play? They beat us in playoffs. It might actually benefit us a little bit to keep them out, especially after we just...
I think they did keep that motto in mind while they were drafting because they do have 4 A-tier picks. So that's... Yeah, we'll let you play. It's okay.
Anything else you guys had for us? Vishy, you have anything?
Yeah. So earlier you said that we'd probably be limited to just 7 or 6 mons to use because our draft is so top heavy. But we're actually we're so used to that. Like last year.
Oh, you cut out, Vishy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was kind of our plan going into it. Just get as much value out of the higher tiers because we didn't think like any of the mons in the lower tiers were actually really worth it to build it to integrate into an actual team.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. And if you guys are used to it, that's your guys' strategy that you guys want to go into. It's worked in the past. Why not make it work again? I thought you were going to say, how dare you say that we only have 7 viable mons. Pupitar's going to come in. He's going to have a clean sweep. You guys are going to feel really stupid.
That mon is very
Score
We're gonna use something, but like not Pupitar.
Yeah, we actually wanted to get Rhyhorn in that slot for like just a little bit of
Lightning Rod.
but yeah, that got taken.
Alright guys, well, anything else for us? Any other comments or concerns or anything like that?
No, that's it. Thanks for having us.
No, it's cool. And look, here's another thing too before we go. You guys did very well in the league last year. You guys made it to finals. We're super excited to see what a draft that was done 100% by you it can do. Me and Matt were talking about this. This is the exact draft that we give a B, and then Vishy just goes and wipes everybody out. 6-0s everybody the first 3 weeks, and we're just like, oh yeah, remember we gave that team a B? Yeah, it's gonna be nice to go.
Yeah, in your hands, this draft is dangerous.
Yes, so that's another thing is we have to kind of view it as like we don't want to say like, well, how does this look like a Vishy draft? Like Vishy draft, a Ben and Vishy draft, we know this is an A, but in the hands of anybody else, this is what it is. So we're very confident that you guys are going to be able to do well and hopefully make a repeat to playoffs and see if you guys can make that deep run. We'll be there waiting for you, hoping to stop you guys this time. We're going to see each other in regular season for sure, and hopefully we'll see you guys in playoffs too. It's always fun when we play you guys. But
Yeah, for sure.
all right, guys. Well, we'll go ahead and let you guys go. Thank you again for stopping by with us, and good luck this year.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, guys.
Thank you.
And
You too.
after this, we are going to be talking to the Toronto Talonflames so wait around for that.